questions, go ahead and put those in the chat as well. Use the hashtag Career Happy Hour. That's how I can track what questions you're asking. So I know there's a buffer, so I might repeat this a couple of times. Getting live on each of the platforms takes some doing. And so I'm waiting for us to go live on all the different platforms. Now, I'm live currently on LinkedIn, of course, Periscope, Facebook. I have a group about finding jobs without a resume. And then what's the other one? Oh, YouTube Live. It's Career Happy Hour. You consider this free career coaching. Go ahead and put any questions you have in the chat, and I'm happy to answer. Karen in Las Vegas, welcome. Good to see your face. Good to have you here on Career Happy Hour. Go ahead and put any questions you have about networking, market planning, career transition, getting promoted, working a resume. Not that I believe in resumes, but we can talk about that later. Give me an indication of where you need the most help. And I'm willing to, I have a topic today that I want to cover, so we'll get to that in just a second. So today's topic really is a theme that I've seen in the last couple of weeks, and that's the idea of who I am versus who I want to be. Who I am versus who I want to be. And that's a big question for a lot of people. Most of the coaching I do is because people have a challenge knowing who they are, who am I? And then they also have a challenge of knowing who do I want to be. They might have more clarity actually around who they want to be versus who they actually are. And so I wanted to look at that from a new perspective today. And that's from the perspective of potential. Each of us has a certain amount of potential that we can bring to the table. In fact, right before FAQ Friday, Career Happy Hour, I had a coaching conversation. And I'm going to keep it completely confidential, but it was fairly clear that this person had really focused in on their circumstance, the challenges in the workplace, the fact that they may not be going where they want to go. I said, well, what is it that's worthy of you pursuing it? What is it that you would want to do more than anything? And a lot of different things came out, but what we decided, or at least what she decided, she or he, potentially could be either, is a director level role. Okay, I understand, director. Is that where you are now? No. Okay, well then what are the things that you would consider would make a great director? And we started cataloging all the things, and we really developed what I thought was a great foundation of a leadership philosophy for her to execute on, to develop a brand around, making herself uniquely qualified to be a director. And that was really, I think, an enlightening experience, and more work to be done for sure. And that really diminishes, not that it isn't important, but it diminishes who she was, or who she thought she was. So she thought she was something, and now it feels like, okay, there is a possibility, a potential. Not that we all don't have potential, but we do. We can see the potential opportunity. That means we need to align ourselves with potential opportunity. And we had some good conversations around that loves the work she's doing, loves the group she's in, had some changes in leadership that weren't in alignment with her values. That can create frustration, confusion, dissatisfaction. There's a lot of value in documenting what it is you really want and then advocating for that. And I think we've talked about that before on Career Happy Hour. In fact, if you're just joining us, let me know where you're joining from. We got some folks here from Vegas. If you're joining from somewhere else, just let me know where you're at. I'd like to know what our reach is for this program. I'm going to grab a little bit of water. So really, I encourage a lot of my clients to document the things they love doing. That's part of the brand. And then really projecting or separating who you are and maybe who you want to be from the type of work you're interested in. Okay, so that's two different things. And often we confuse the two. Well, I want to work in a place that has good work-life balance, and I'm pursuing companies like that. Well, that's not very tangible for a coach like me to help you. That's intangible, and it's unidentifiable until you get inside a company. And so it's really important. Hangs on. In fact, I just came from that meeting, so it's still fresh in my mind. But so here's the thing, is that we need to separate what it is we are good at, enjoy, love doing, right, our stuff, from the places and the ways we want to execute it. That's what I would call a marketing plan, maybe even a dream job description, something of value to you for sure, but not something that your marketplace or the people you're networking with are particularly interested in. It's also something in sales terms that we would call pre-qualification criteria, meaning, hey, I only want to do work with these kind of people in this kind of way. So if I was looking for somebody to buy or sell real estate, back when I was selling real estate, we had pre-qualifiers. Are you pre-approved for the purchase price of this home? Yes or no? Okay. So, but the thing is, those are criteria that when we're job seeking, we don't need to let people know, hey, I want to earn this amount of money. Oh, they don't pay enough, right? So we're projecting our needs onto a person who cannot satisfy them. That's not extremely valuable. What we do want is introduction to people in a networking situation so that we can have a conversation of strategic significance, not only to me, but to them. It's a both and. And I've seen a lot of people come into conversations, networking wise, where it was all focused on me, my need for employment. And how did that work out for you? It didn't work out. Therefore, networking doesn't work. Well, you might want to try again, but in a different way. Wow, we got folks from Missouri here. Goodness gracious. Oh, Snohomish. Yes, I have friends in Snohomish. I won't say who they are. Lebanon. Is it Lebanon or Lebanon? A or B? Missouri. What if you love your job but not the group you're in? That's life. My goodness. You know, if here's the thing, is that if you think that you can't change the makeup of that group, you'd be mistaken. You can absolutely change the makeup of that group, okay? So really, it's two things. One, is that group one that you love so much that you're willing to change the dynamic? That's a question only you can answer. I can't answer that for you. Is it worthy of you pursuing it? So sometimes it's saying, yes, I love the work. Yes, I love my leader maybe, but I don't like the team I'm on. Well, that can change, right? Maybe it's people aren't on the right seat in the bus. Jim Collins, I think, talks about that in Good to Great. I got the book up there somewhere, but I digress. So that's something to think about. I appreciate that question. Wow, somebody in Toronto. My goodness. How do you get started with a new career? Wow, that's a great question. I think it really depends. Is that a good enough answer? Probably not. It depends. If you're looking to go outside your area of expertise, then I would consider how it's going to happen. Sometimes it requires education, not always. I have not yet seen a profession where you can take some of your current experiences, current expertise, things you're good at, accomplishments, all that stuff, and just reposition it a little bit so that it aligns with the type of work you want to do. Okay. Now, if you're a position where you're just getting started, right? You completed your education, you just graduated college, right? Maybe you grabbed a master's degree and you're just wanting to launch your career. That's a different path altogether. So I'm not sure which category you're in, but I haven't seen anything that couldn't be repositioned on the one side. And then if you're launching something like a new career or you're trying to establish yourself, either way, networking is a great tool to become really good at that will serve you for the rest of your career. Now, if you're just out of college, and I run across a lot of college graduates, what they overlook is the value of being a college graduate. You have an excuse to network with people. Hey, I'm a new college grad. I'm just getting my feet wet. I'm wanting to start my career in, let's say, software development, and I'm really targeting Amazon. I want to get as much perspective on that as I can from you, and I'd like to ask you some questions. Now you didn't hear me say, "Hey, I'm looking for a job. Can you find me a job?" No, yes, I'm looking for work. I don't expect you to have anything for me is the message I want to send. And I'm interested in getting information and advice. This is something that Scott and I talk a lot about in our podcast. So if you haven't signed up for our podcast, I would highly recommend. In fact, I'll put a reply here to you, Hung. It's Job Seekers Radio. One too many T's. jobseekersradio.com/listen. And there's plenty of stuff there that you can take a look at and listen to outside of this once a week free coaching that I provide. Okay. So if you're in a position where you have a specific question about your situation, you can send me a direct message here on LinkedIn or send me an email. My email's on my LinkedIn profile. That's fine too. There's lots of ways to get a hold of me. I'm absolutely accessible, so that's not a problem on that side. So great. Thank you for that question. But, really we're talking today, the topic, if you're just joining us, is how do I go from, or how do I work through that, wrestle through that idea of who I am versus who I want to be? And how do I map a path to get there? And really the gap between those two things is what we have been talking about as potential. We always have potential to do what? To learn something new, to reposition our experience, to manage actively the way that we present ourselves with people. And so that may mean that you need to change people's listening for you because they may know you as one thing, but you want to be known as something else. And if you're like most of the people I know, you have not actively managed your brand. And a brand is simply just a set of differentiators that describe who you are professionally speaking. What is it? The one thing that you do that nobody else can do as well as you can do. What is that? And how do we lean into that as a brand? That's what we're talking about today. So don't think that you can't change the perception of who you are based on that. And I look forward to hearing about your success. So please feel free to put any questions, comments, challenges that you have, that sort of thing. I'd be happy to answer. Okay. So, that's interesting. So, good. Thank you for that question. Appreciate that. So we're talking about potential. By potential, we really mean how is it that we can get from where we are to where we want to be? And so, pardon me for a second. Looks like I've got some visitors here. Sorry about that. So we're talking about potential. And this came up again this week that somebody came in and they put parameters around the type of company they want to work for. I want to work for a company that offers great benefits. So they're really seeing the end before they've seen the beginning. And that can be self-defeating. I would encourage you to more focus on what you bring to the table than the table you want to bring it to, if that makes sense. And each table that you come to, if you present yourself well, they'll provide you something that meets your needs. And then you have an opportunity to see if they meet your needs, if that makes sense. Okay. Thanks, Grant. Yeah. It was kind of a little late notice. I had a tight timeline today and I didn't have time to establish a green screen presentation. So that happens, So if you have any questions, Grant, please feel free to put those in the chat. I'm happy to answer. Remember, if you're just joining us for the first time, I consider this career happy hour. This is an opportunity for you to come to the end of your work week, maybe the end of your job search week, and say, you know what, let's take a break. Let's engage. Let's answer some good questions about career, and let's move into the weekend with purpose. That's really why I do this. And what I'm really trying to overcome is that, by doing this on a Friday, I should probably do it on a Monday, to be honest, because that's the highest rate of, I think that anxiety that people have when they go back to work. I'd certainly love to do it on a Monday morning, but not many people are engaged in that way. And so really this is an opportunity for me to say, okay, if you're dreading Monday, which is perfectly normal, don't consider it odd at all. Now, today, Friday is a day that we can say, okay, what can I change maybe over the next 2 days, over the weekend? With the holidays coming, you'll have more space to do this. What can I do today to actually change on Saturday and Sunday my Monday? Okay, so think of it that way. Think of your Friday afternoons kind of as a preparation for the weekend in changing the Mondays that you don't like, if that makes sense. Okay. Good one. So actually, how do I set up a green screen for a video interview? I'm not sure that you'd want to do that because it's based on the video system that you use, and that can be problematic. What I would recommend is at least a backdrop. And so if you're in an environment where it's not aesthetically pleasing, where you don't have a home office that's kind of put together, I don't have a fancy office here at all, but I do have strung, and you can't really see it, but along the ceiling, I have a wire that just runs across the ceiling. And I bought some fabric that already has a pocket on it, and I run it through that wire. And the wire I just got from the hardware store, and it's just strung across there with turnbuckles. So, but I would just have a backdrop, and that could be a black screen or blue, something that's kind of darker, but something maybe even that you can shine a light against. So I do have some LED lights over here, and so it's really simple. But I broadcast through Restream, just so you know. This is kind of a geeky side of this broadcast, I suppose. But Grant asked, so he's getting. If you ask questions, you get answers. Funny how that works. So I broadcast through Restream, which is the video broadcast service to all these different channels, using OBS, and that's Open Broadcast Software. It's 100% free, so you can look that up and check it out. But if you're doing the challenge with video interviews is that you're reliant on the method of video that the hiring team is using. So are they using Skype? I don't know. Are they using Zoom? I don't know. Zoom has capacity to do that. Now, whether or not they have it turned on is a different question. Okay. Now, but Zoom has background image. Okay. So you could do a green screen, but then you'd have to upload a background image. If it's BlueJeans, I'm not even familiar with BlueJeans and the back end, but I know that's another video conference software. What if it's HireVue? I mean, I don't know. These systems are all different, and you're going to have a difficult time doing a green screen with each one of those systems. So it's a different kind of thing. Okay. So, but if you're doing video interviews, I think it's more important that you practice doing video interviews. And finding somebody to do that kind of practice with. Vaughn, good to have you, my friend. Zeitswürfe, hopefully I pronounced that right. If you've taken several online courses in a subject I have no professional experience in, what is the best way to present it so that I can get a job in that area? Do a project, okay? So, in fact, these are the words I want you to use. I'm working on a project, okay? And fill in the blank with whatever that project is that will help you demonstrate those skills. That's what you can use to fuel your networking, okay? Now, why is that important? Because it does a couple things. One, it helps you build relationships with people. Two, it helps you practice your narrative. Three, it might put you in a position to actually do that project and get paid, okay? Then, now you have documented experience, and you might actually get hired in the process without the experience. Isn't that interesting? So if people see you as the right person, the right solution to a problem in their organization, would they not hire you? Absolutely they would. Now, the other option is if you're going down that path and you're not finding the resources, you might volunteer to do it for free for a nonprofit, for a friend, whatever that looks like, for a neighborhood organization, for a company that you think might benefit from it. Just give it away for free. And I've seen that done a lot. And people then put that in their portfolio. So it looks like you're in graphic design. Perfect. I'm sure you have a portfolio. You're used to that concept. And so if you have no experience in that area, it doesn't mean you can't gain the experience or do a pet project or network with people in that domain to figure out a project you could do and use in your portfolio. Maybe collaborate on a project. Maybe go to this back to the school, talk to the professor if that was a an upper level thing. Oh, it's an online course. Go back to the course creator. Who created the course? Was it LinkedIn Learning? Who is the author of the course? Reach out to the author, ask for their advice. That's why LinkedIn is so powerful, okay? Wayne's Shock Loss in the house. Wow. Good to see your podcast. Yeah, I have a podcast too. jobseekersradio.com/listen. That's in the notes here. Oh, man, you're on the marketplace. Not for long, I'm sure. Okay. Have had some interviews and recently went well, but communication feedback has been limited to HR talent scout. Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends on the level you're looking at, Wayne. And if I know you, you're looking pretty high level. Sometimes that's just the way it rolls. But I think you should probably share. Maybe you come on and we do an interview. How would you feel about that? I could interview on Career Happy Hour on Friday or even on the podcast. And we could give you some direct feedback on how to move forward. But appears very... So wait a minute. Have you always been busy? So when I sent people to you, did you say yes to those conversations? And most of the time, the answer was yes. So what that is that's an indication, perhaps, of the corporate culture. And you need to make a note of that. Every interaction, so I'm surprised. Actually, I'm not surprised, but I believe that every company should look at themselves much like a fishbowl. They should consider themselves always being viewed by people on the outside. How are you handling the candidate experience, right? How are you handling the employee experience? How are you handling a customer experience? And shouldn't we be looking at all these things as a possible way that someone could be onboarded or could sell a product or could recommend our company? Absolutely. So the lack of communication, Wayne, in your situation is a reflection on that employer. And that's something, being a global sales and marketing leader, that you can absolutely change. Okay? And so you could certainly follow up with the recruiter. I found that to be law of diminishing returns. But you've got a hiring manager. If you've met a hiring manager, that would be a way to go. I've seen leaders put together 30, 60, 90 plans and offer them unsolicited or even present them at the next interview. I've seen people have their references call the employer, the hiring manager, whatever that looks like. And so there's always a next step. And I would encourage you, being a sales guy, always confirm your next step before you leave the meeting. That's valuable information for everybody. It puts everybody at ease. There's no misunderstanding or miscommunication about where we're going. And I'm sure you'll do just fine. You did fine last time around. So I'm happy to support you if you have any needs. Anybody on this session. Looks like we have quite a few folks here. So if you have any questions at all, go ahead and put those in the chat. I'm happy to answer. And, we'll get you an answer here today, live on Career Happy Hour. Every Friday, 3 p.m. Pacific time, I'll be here. I've made that commitment. Now, occasionally I'll be traveling and you might get a recorded session, but I am monitoring the comments. So if you have a question, I'll come back and answer it, okay? I believe everybody's busy, and I also believe that's a smokescreen, and it's an excuse, and it's a bad one. Here's the thing, is that everybody deserves to know their status, their situation, their progress or not in through a hiring team. And I think Terry Smith, is it Terry Smith? I'll tag him here. Terry Smith and I are in agreement on that. Smith. You guys can check out his profile. Hopefully I'm not doing anything wrong. But Terry's a great guy, a wonderfully strategic, by the way, HR guy. So if anybody out there looking for strategic HR, Terry is a thought leader in that space. Exceptionally good on the recruiting side and everything from operations to sales and marketing. So he's really good. In fact, Wayne, I think he would make a good networking connection for you. Look at that. We're actually exercising the tool that I suggest people to use to find opportunity. And one of the ways to do that is to recommend people to talk to. And so that's good. Grant, back in the driver's seat here. I've been looking at larger finance companies. Finance, what do you mean by that? Financial services? Companies, CPAs? You get to decide who you hitch your wagon to. That's all up to you. You don't have to change anything to appeal to smaller companies and startups. Why? Because it's about relationships. You need to find out what they need first. See, that's the value of networking. It's much like sales, although I don't like to say that out loud in front of people who are not in sales. It's a sales process. You need to identify the customer need first before you offer solutions. And once you've understood their issues, their challenges that you can solve better than they do, then by all means, offer a solution if they have open ears, okay? Serve financial services. Okay, well, so who are all the financial services companies you'd love to work for, and who are the people that work there, and who's got a willing ear that you can bend? And how can you get to those people? Is it through a mutual connection? Is it through a friend, a neighbor, somebody you used to work with? See, often we hide behind the application resume process without realizing that there's people out there willing to help us. According to LinkedIn's own research, I think it was about 3-4 years ago I saw it, 35%, which is not encouraging, by the way, 35% of your network is willing to help you. Okay? So if I looked at my 7,000 connections, what's 35% of 7,000? You're in finance, Grant. You tell me. 35% of 7,000. Okay? Those people are willing to help me. The question is, how can they help me? And that's where you come in. You need to be sure that they understand how they can help you. And it's not to find a job. It's not to refine your resume. It's to find information, advice, connection to people. Okay? And they may ask you for those things. Can I have your resume? Can I look at your LinkedIn profile? Can I understand the companies you want to work for? Did you look at the website, at the open postings? I'm not interested in those things. I appreciate the offer. I'm interested in connections, information, advice. And I'd like to get your perspective on something. Do you have time to have a conversation? Okay? Often they're looking at, how would you say, throwaway advice. I think it was called by, what was his name? Eat that frog. I can't even remember his name. How funny is that? Anyway, just make sure that you're looking for ways to learn, understand. Covey's 7 habits again. Seek first to understand, then be understood. Begin with the end in mind. Yes. Think win-win. Yes. All those things are true. Okay. First things first. First things first. Think about that. If you haven't read Covey's 7 habits, highly recommended. Okay. So the switch. So the question isn't how can you switch. The question is, how do you get people to realize that you're the solution to a problem they have? And that's how I look at it. Now, you decide who to have conversations with. Absolutely. You decide who the market is. Absolutely. You go talk to those people and you might get a different perspective. Right? And I can't tell you how liberating it is to not be defined by your resume. To go have conversations of significance, strategic significance to you and to the people you're talking to. Okay? Wayne's got another question. What is your opinion of the advisory cloud? I'm not even familiar with that. So if you have information on that, please, by all means, share it in the chat. And I'd be happy to provide you my 2 cents, or I could do that offline. That's fine too. But I'm absolutely open to hearing about it. Let me see if I can find it. If you guys have any other questions, happy to answer. Advisor, is that Salesforce? Cloud Advisory, IBM Cloud, Advisory Cloud, the leading marketplace for advisors? What kind of advisors? Or she keeps facing. Interesting. Oh, so that's like a freelance marketplace. Okay. So what that is, at least on the surface, is a freelance marketplace. Not much different than, well, at the low end, Fiverr, or at the middle end, what is that? I can't remember the name of it, but I'll put it in the notes when I get done. I used it once. Upwork. Yeah, that's it. So it's not much different than Upwork. So it looks like a marketplace. And so the advisory cloud is maybe a little bit different in that, it really just depends on the vetting process. And so if that's something you're interested in, by all means, check it out. I think there's other ones there too that are a little more like, hey, I'll pay you $20 to go do this. Anyway, there's different kinds of that sort of thing, Wayne. So yeah, I mean, I don't know that I have an opinion on it, but my ears are always open. And I think that's a good philosophy to have. Ears open, eyes open, always consider everything, and never stop looking. I think as soon as we close our ears, close our eyes, and stop looking, that's when we're in trouble. Because when it's not the fact that we're down, it's the fact that we stay down. That's a challenge. And I credit my good friend Scott Picard Jones for that one. But I would highly recommend that you take a look at our podcast, jobseekersradio.com, for more information on these topics. In fact, I'll put that in the notes here for some reason. There it goes. Save. All right. If there's no other questions, I'm going to sign off and have a great weekend. So I'm happy to answer in any way that you want me to. Any other questions out there? And I'm going to sign off. Talk amongst yourselves. In fact, if you see somebody here that's left a comment, reach out to them. Have conversations. I want to promote that. Absolutely. So when you have a chance, go ahead and take a look at the people that were in the stream, leaving comments, throwing a like, slap a like on this thing. If you don't want to leave a comment, at least put a like on it or share it with your friends, because I'm here every Friday, 3 p.m. Pacific time. Let your friends know. I'm happy to answer those questions. Excellent. Good to have every one of you. Oh, I missed a question. Sorry about that. How do I get started with my Scrum Master certs? Well, I don't know. What were the requirements to get it in the first place? Is there, could you find other Scrum Masters in your location or at your target companies to talk to? Right? It's about people. I think the problem is a lot of times we look at a computer or a system or something like LinkedIn to solve our own problem, which is a relation-based problem. We need to build relationships. Why? Because that's how people get hired. They get hired by those they know, like, and trust. It's a sales process. I don't like to say sales out loud in front of people that aren't sales, but it's true. It's a relationship building, understanding process. It's not, hey, I'm good and I promise I'll do a good job for you. Great. It's, how did you get into Scrum Master in the first place? What was your career path? What skills are valuable in this marketplace? Where is your company going? How are you using these skills on a daily basis? What's a skill set outside of Scrum Master that's in high demand but low supply? See, I'm not saying anything about me or my needs. I'm trying to get a feel for the marketplace by asking questions. So that's sometimes a valuable way to go that direction. So Wayne, if you want to leave that advisory cloud link in the chat, I'm sure people would appreciate it. So I'm going to sign off now. I hope you have a great weekend and happy networking. Just get out there and talk to people, will you? All right, guys, take care.